All right, so we're back. It's a different angle, different time of day. I was about to do a little carnage here, but figure I'll document what I'm doing first before I actually do it. We're underneath the car right now. It's a little bit late at night. It's the only time I can get to do any work right now. So the engine's in, the transmission's in. I went to bolt the transmission cross member up, but it wouldn't go all the way. And I thought, okay, there's some trans tunnel insulation. Maybe that's too thick, so I went to remove it and saw that I forgot that this car has the manual transmission shifter bracket. These rear-wheel drive cars, even if they're automatic, they come with the factory shifter bracket installed. It's for the little shifter bushing if you have a manual transmission. SMG cars don't have that, and anytime you do an SMG to 6MT conversion, you have to buy that bracket from BMW and weld it in place or rivet it in place or something. And in my case, I'm going backwards. I'm putting SMG in a car that didn't have it, and so I have that bracket and I need to remove it. So let's take a look at that bracket. All right. So I've went ahead and removed the gear position sensor. Gives me a little extra clearance. And here we have our little bracket. It's right there. Let's see if we can pull away this insulation. So, let's see if I can get some light in here. So that bracket right there, it's got to go. When you try to bolt the transmission up, the gear position sensor on the SMG system sits right there, and even though it'll bolt, it doesn't really clear it there well, and engine vibration will cause a lot of chatter, or it's probably just going to vibrate the sensor to death because there's not supposed to be any touching there. So I'm going to cut that out. I don't really have a lot of clearance right now to get my spot weld drill bit up in there, just because you can see there's the transmission's in the way, and I really don't want to remove this actuator system because it has a double bitch pin system, and that was a pain in the butt even when the transmission was out of the car. So definitely not doing that when the transmission's in the car. So I have a Dremel and with a cutoff wheel, and I can easily go ahead and just cut that bracket out and then paint over it, make sure so it doesn't rust, and then we should be good to go. So we'll be back after that's done. Okay, we are back. That is what's left of the shifter bracket after I've cut it out with my Dremel. And right there, I'll grind that down with a little grinding wheel, and then I'll paint over it, and I think we got our clearance that we need. That worked out fine. All right, we'll be back for the next one. All right, want to take a guess? We're back. So I have used this stuff right here, 3M rubberized undercoating, and went ahead and I used brake cleaner, and then I used the air dryer to dry the whole area, and then I applied liberally, so hopefully that'll protect any rust or any water intrusion. So I feel pretty confident with that, but it's still a little wet and tacky. It'll dry to a matte finish, but yeah, I think that'll do it. I think we got our clearance now for the SMG stuff, and I can start putting all this stuff back together. All right, we'll be back with the next one. All right, back with another episode. Another thing that I have to consider for the SMG stuff into a non-SMG car is the hole in the trans tunnel for gear shifters. So in manual transmission cars, they have this hole right here so that you can stick the shifter lever through with a little dust boot. Also in automatic cars, non-SMG automatic transmission cars, they also have that hole. And that hole is blocked off by this rubber gasket. This fits right into the hole. This right here is for the shift cable to fit through. This sits down in place, and then this shifter assembly sits on top of it, and then it bolts through these little 3 holes right here. I had plans to use that. I thought it was going to be really slick and it was going to work, but it doesn't, because on an SMG car, SMG cars have a block off plate there, and guys that do a conversion have to cut that block off plate out. Well, the reason SMG cars have that block-off plate instead of this is because the SMG actuator arm sits right there, right below that hole. Right now the transmission is down because I've disconnected the trans brace, so it's hanging down. But when you push it all the way up, there's no clearance for this at all. It just kind of sits right there on top. That's why they have a block-off plate there. So I had to fabricate my own. So I got a piece of aluminum, measured the diameter of the hole. It was, I think, 3.4 inches or something like that. I oversized it a bit. Instead of going from underneath like the factory one, I'm going to go in through the top. So what I've done is I put this plate here and I measured the inside lip diameter. And it's not perfectly centered right now, but I'll center it. But it'll sit right there, and it is nice and flat and flush so that the shifter assembly will still be able to bolt down no problem. My plan is to 3M panel bond that piece in. So I'm gonna get the panel bond ready and panel bond that in, and then I just gotta find something that is the diameter of that's kind of weighty to sit down and weigh it down so that they can apply pressure for 24 to 48 hours until it cures. It's a little cold, so I got to give it more cure time. But as soon as I get that in, then I can clean up the area. I can paint it blue so it's nice and flat, and we should be good to go on that aspect. And it'll also weather seal it with panel bond. It'll keep all the moisture and water out, and because it's aluminum, it should dissipate any heat that may come up from the transmission as well. I'll be back after an update when we get that piece in. All right.
Hey guys, sorry about that. I didn't record a whole lot more video of this, so I just wanted to take a few minutes to give a voiceover and show some pictures that I took on my cell phone. They kind of just show what's going on here. In these first couple of pictures, you can see that I've created the block-off plate, and then I used the panel bond, and I found something with nuts and bolts, just kind of hold it in place and let it cure for 24 to 48 hours. And then on this next one, you can see underneath how it's cured, what it looks like from underneath. You can see the panel bond kind of just seeping out a little bit from there, which makes a nice seal. And then in this last picture, we can see everything all buttoned up and tucked back into place.
All right, we are back. A new day, and made some good progress. Was able to double check and make sure all my SMG wiring is good. It was a big accomplishment for me to make sure that everything was working right. So I fired up the laptop and fired up INPA and started going through the bleed procedure and the actuator procedure for the clutch slave and the actuator, and then also the gear position for everything else. So we went through that whole procedure. Everything passed, which is good. It took a little bit because the system was completely empty, but well, let's take a look here. So we got this, my laptop fired up, this guy right here, pretty cool. Got the cluster in there. And get my foot on the brake. Oh no. Alright. Here, we're showing neutral, foot on the brake. Got first gear, second gear, back to first gear, reverse. And when you're stationary, you can only do first and second gear. It won't go to third. Back to neutral. So yeah, got that. We got the SMG CSL reservoir bolted in place. Had to put some riv nuts into the shock tower so that I could bolt the bracket and slide this into the bracket. Everything is routed and plumbed into the SMG pump. So the next steps are getting the core support on, getting the radiator in, coolant pipes hooked up, and then I'm gonna get the carpet. I'm gonna get all this cleaned out so that I can go ahead and get the carpet in, the front half of the carpet. That way I can get the heater core in. And then once the heater core is in and bolted in place, then I can go ahead and get the heater core lines and all the coolant lines plumbed. And once everything is plumbed cooling system wise, I can add oil. So I can, well, I gotta put the oil cooler. I got the lines on, but I gotta do the oil cooler in the front. Can't do that till the core support's on. But then I can add some engine oil and then start adding coolant, and we'll be back for the first prime and engine start. All right, cool. Thanks.